a.m. demos. Don't know how that's even possible. There we go. No worries about the kids as well. Kids are all good. Go feed the kids, Gary. Fine.
So I've got one, and he's going to say hi, and then he's going to have to go. So say hi to everybody, and then you got to go.
Hi, Lev.
Hey, morning. Okay, welcome everybody to Brainfood Live on Air. It's a special today, folks. It's Brainfood Live on Air midweek special. We've been doing this all year. Reason why is because we've had such a rate of innovation happening in the recruitment tech world that we really needed to set kind of special time in the week to demonstrate and show what people are producing for us. And so today, I'm delighted to welcome our good friends Vouch onto the show. Vouch are, of course, Australian-based, but international and global in scope. And we've timed this specifically for the US market and our US friends, because that's actually a really booming market for this company. So hopefully you're going to enjoy the rest of this show. But let me just introduce the two fine gentlemen who are on screen with me right now. Let's go as I see it. Ben, why don't you quickly introduce yourself? Who are you? What it is you do?
Sure. I'm Ben. I'm based in Sydney, originally from Melbourne, both in Australia, but yeah, been in Sydney for the last 4.5 years, enjoying the beaches. But I lead the sales team globally for Vouch out of the Sydney office. But as you mentioned, we've got a large portion of our business is in the US, and then we've also got a growing hub in the UK, servicing the UK and EMEA region as well.
Yeah, fantastic stuff, Ben. And we have Gary here as well. Gary, wonderful to see you again. Can you quickly introduce yourself? Who are you? What it is you do? Don't worry, mate. The kids are good for TV. So
I'm Gary, one of the co-founders of Vouch, the CEO. We've been live for about 5 years. Started in Sydney, Australia, but teams now in the US and the UK, European region. My background before Vouch was I was at Canva and then a number of SaaS companies before. So we've got some customers in the chat, which is very exciting. So shout out to Audrey and Light Up Foundation Medicine. Great to see her here. We're kind of global now, which is timely for our session today, but I'm really excited to dive in.
Yeah, fantastic stuff. And Vouch, let's say a few things about Vouch. What are you? What do you do? Who should really care about it, Gary?
Yeah, so we're a content platform predominantly for employer brand and recruitment marketing teams. We started very heavily focused on video content and scaling that across these organizations as that demand has grown significantly in this market. We obviously use then AI to spin a lot of great other stuff out. So blogs, social posts, everything written, job descriptions and other bits and pieces. And then today, what we'll touch on as well is how we kind of take the elements of that content platform and roll it out into what we call recruiter enablement. So the ability for larger parts of the TA team, like recruiters and TA folks, as individuals to come in and access content and sort of move through the top of the funnel experience for candidates in a more authentic and engaging way. So, very focused on being recruiter marketing, but we can touch on that along with the TA folks and recruiter enablement.
Yeah, fantastic stuff. Okay, folks, the purpose of all of this is to do a live demo as well. So we want to show you exactly how all of this works. Recruiter enablement, by the way, is an idea that's kind of been, enablement generally is an idea that's been around probably in the sales space for 10, 15 years or so. It's something that I think Salesforce may have kind of came up with it in the first instance. They just recognize that, you know what, if you want to sell well, you got to get your salespeople doing the customer stuff and freeing them up to have conversations with customers and stakeholders, not having to deal with all of the admin, not to do the admin bits and bobs, the marketing bits and bobs. So great to see the concept move over into recruiter enablement. Before we get into the demo and look-see, I wonder whether sort of you could tell us a little bit about how this kind of adjacent development emerged on the sort of from the video base of what you guys are doing. I wonder whether you give us a bit of history on that. Ben, I wonder whether you could take a lead on this.
Yeah, of course. So I think, we started in the employer brand space, obviously, and working with leaders in that space. Some teams have dedicated employer brand teams, some teams don't, but most companies are doing some form and fashion of employer brand and employer brand content. So as they were building those out, the main distribution channels that they were working across was their social media channels and their career sites, and then they were looking to get that content that they've invested a lot of time and effort in creating into the hands of the candidates as well. So if you think about the career site and the social channels as the top of funnel in terms of that high level attraction piece, there then is also a conversion story where it's also at the pointy end of the spear, being able to get that content into the hands of those candidates who are still considering your business, but then maybe even moving them through to an application phase or moving them through that consideration phase after they've already applied and are now going through an interview process. So what we heard a lot from employer brand leaders was, one, how can I help amplify this content across the organization and get this into the hands of my recruiters directly? So coming from the employer brand side, from the demand side of things, but then also as teams start to see that content popping up on their social media feeds, as it does with sales enablement and customer marketing, salespeople seeing, a great customer testimonial popping up on their LinkedIn company page, they start to say, oh, that's an amazing piece of content. How can I use that in my outreach to start to drum up more interest in, outbound prospecting, or when I'm in live conversations with a prospect? The same thing started to happen with employer brand and recruitment, where these talent sources or the recruiters were actually seeing amazing employee content popping up on LinkedIn channels, on the career site, and they were wanting to get a hold of that to be able to use that in their outreach and their communications directly with candidates. But it hasn't been seamless previously, where there's no structure or form for them to be able to access that content. There's concerns from the company level of recruiters going out on their own and using content that hasn't been pre-approved or isn't licensed to be shared with candidates. So it's really trying to map a little bit of structure and, I would say, enterprise policy around how that content is created, but then also how that's then given to those recruiters to be able to use in the same way as you applied the analogy for sales enablement, sales teams with the customer marketing as well.
Yeah, it reminds me actually that the salespeople are often discovering the content from outside, like it's being produced inside, then distributed, then they actually discover it on a third-party platform, and then realize, why the heck haven't we had this? And of course, it's probably been sent internally somewhere, but it's just been lost in the noise, and there's a disconnect. So it totally makes sense in that regard. And I'd love to see how this kind of works with on the recruiter enablement side as well. Gary, I wonder whether you could tell us a little bit about sort of when the idea for you guys moving. I don't want to say moving away from EB, because I think that's still core to what you do, but to kind of move to this adjacent space of recruiter enablement. When did that become an idea, and how did that emerge as a product?
Yes, I think it's definitely important to recognize that without the recruiter enablement content module that we have and the ability to create all those assets, the recruiter enablement portal would feel kind of empty and lifeless and not have exactly what you need as an organization. So the two are very strongly linked. We basically did a round of kind of custom conversations probably about 12 months ago now, where we went out to our EB customers and leaders in the space and said, what's going on in your world? What more can we think about in terms of Vouch, and what else can we build? We always try and build a roadmap collaboratively with our customers, as opposed to just guessing what the market needs. Like, we want to draw those insights from the experts, which, we're a software vendor, so we need to produce what the market needs. So a lot of the feedback was, we love creating all this content with Vouch, but there's a couple of challenges. It's spread out everywhere, so we might have to distribute it across multiple different sources internally. Some companies are using some combination of Google Drive or SharePoint or different resources that it's just everywhere. And so recruiters wanting to access the EB content was a great signal for us, but they just didn't have the time to break their existing workflows and go and find the assets wherever they existed. So we've really narrowed in on that. And a lot of the other feedback was, it doesn't need to be overly complicated or like with a million different modules for our recruiters. What they really need is to enhance the candidate experience at the top of the funnel and even through the interview phases as well. So there's a lot of great hiring manager content they use down funnel with Vouch. How can they just access that quickly and get it into the world through LinkedIn DMs or even just email threads or inside an ATS? So that was the spark for us to build recruiter enablement module. It's really interesting because, the reality is, in the last 6 months, most of our calls with new.
Have we lost audio from Gary?
Yeah, I lost it for a second. It's going like a bit.
Gary, I think you.
What about now?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, sorry guys, some weird disconnection. Let's blame AWS. But so the reality is, all of our calls now have an aspect of content and recruiter enablement in them. Everyone's looking to do both. And And I think that's just reflective of where the industry is heading around recruiters wanting to sort of access as much content as they can and enhance that candidate experience. So the insight started with our customers. We built that out over the last 12 months.
Yeah, fantastic. And I love the collaborative attitude to build software. That makes perfect sense. Just get closer to the customers and understand sort of their customer needs and build product out from there. Okay, cool. I think it's great to take a look at this, guys. I don't know whether you're ready to do it. First time we've shared screen, but there should be some sort of feature at the bottom. You see the button in the middle, it says present. So whichever one of you guys are going to give this a shot, then do let me know. In fact, don't let me know. Just press that button, and then we'll see it. We'll see it emerge.
Ben's going to run it, but I also want just to acknowledge Audra in the chat sort of has been interestingly pioneering a lot of this with her TA team as well. So she's talking about her recruiters wanting to use video, like email gifts, like dynamic content in their outreach sequences and templates, and I think that's a great example. So I mean, shout out to Audra and the team who've been doing this for a while and was sort of the impetus behind the idea.
Do you know what? I now understand sort of where the additional value is, because stuff like, video GIFs and stuff like this, it's obviously the way in which modern communication happens. But you can also imagine it being like super high risk, potentially off brand, if you're fishing the stuff out from the outside web, for instance, that you could be sharing stuff that you don't actually know what the subterranean meaning is, for instance. Like we might not know. I just imagine someone who's perhaps just not connected to it all start sending stuff out that might actually be very, very not good. So
AI also, I mean, Ben will dive into the demo, but AI also puts a risk around that because people are creating all sorts of stuff with AI that is probably off brand and not templatized, and the copy's wrong, or actually you can actually create visual assets like AI videos now, as a recruiter or a TA professional or anyone in marketing that's off brand. So I think it's about guardrails as well, which we can touch on. But
I'd be interested in how you put the guardrails in. Like, how significant are the templates? I mean, we will talk about it as we go through, because I think it's actually going to be a strong value add that you do have strong guardrails on that, because as the world of content, as AI distributes content creation and enables everyone to create whatever, then I think controls are going to start to happen. I can't help think, by the way, of that Trump tweet where he do an animated GIF of him flying over America and stuff, and he's literally defecating over the people, and it was like,
it's done a few.
I mean, is there anything that's off brand when it comes to him? It's probably on brand, but I mean, clearly there's a guardrail that there needed to be some guardrails right there. You know what I'm saying? So
I think his social media team's kind of got free reign at the moment. I'm sure whatever they want.
Yeah, indeed. Right. Anyway, right, Ben, let's have a look, mate.
Let me jump in. I think I'll go through a couple of things. I think the starting point is also just to actually give, I think the broader concept is how you actually can go about creating content, whether that sits with the employer brand team, if you do have one, whether that sits with the talent team, whether that sits with the recruitment team, marketing, comms. I think it's important to show how you can actually create that content, as that is the base. And you actually need that content to then be able to go on and enable your recruitment team. And then I'll show some of that templating you've spoken about, Hung, in terms of how you can actually build out templates for your content very quickly, and you're able to ensure that it's all brand polished and it's signed off before it gets placed in the hands of your recruiters. And then I'll also show how that is then kind of locked down on the recruiter side. So when you actually pass that through to recruiters, they're not able to go in and edit that content free reign like you are in the admin section. That's really, locked down to a core select group of users. And then the recruitment is more of the distribution angle in terms of how they can go and do exactly what you were mentioning, Audra, taking video GIFs and dropping those in, being able to share links with candidates, messaging templates, all that kind of stuff as well.
And Hung, I don't know if I'm ruining the webinar format or if it's encouraged, but we can collaborate with questions in the chat as we go through this. Like if people have questions, we can go through that if it's allowed. But we're happy to. We don't want it to be a 40-minute straight demo.
No. Totally okay. And anybody who's watching this on LinkedIn as well, do let us know on the comments. We've got people kind of watching different LinkedIn streams, so we can pull those into the chat as well. So I've kind of maxed out the screen so people can see the demo. But does that mean you guys can't see the chat anymore? Is that right, or can you still see chat?
I can see the chat. Yeah, if you want to flag a question, Hung, then we can definitely dive into that mid demo. Please interrupt us. Go through it.
Okay, no worries. I actually can't see the chat because I've maxed the screen out, so I might be reliant on you guys to just pile into it. But in the interim, just crack on, Ben. Let's have a look. Let's see how we go.
Yeah, awesome. I can monitor the questions as well.
I'll keep an eye on it, Ben. No worries. You go through it.
Cool. I'll skip over some of the boring stuff for the people on the call, but just know like everything is controlled and customizable for your company or your team or your brand. So there's everything from all the branding, all of the tracking, custom subdomains. I won't get into the nitty gritty of it, but just have an understanding that if you were to be using this platform for your own business, it would be completely white labeled and it would be customized entirely to your organization. And that's to make sure that the experience for your employees who are submitting content is fully on brand and it feels very first party, but then also all of the outputs that you're then sharing through your recruiters and potentially your LinkedIn or your social channels is also very on brand and consistent and upholds kind of that brand integrity that your brand and marketing teams are going to be holding you to account on. So in terms of getting people to submit content and actually partake in a content program across the business, there's a few ways you can collect content across the organization. If you've got existing assets, you can always bring them into the platform as an admin and upload them in. We have a live recording functionality, which I think is very interesting. A lot of teams at the moment, when they're trying to create employee content or testimonials or even hiring manager content, a lot of times they'll jump on things like a Teams or a Zoom call, and they'll try and screen record that and try and fashion an asset that they can then share externally or with a candidate. The problem with screen recording those meeting environments is they're not meant for content creation. The reason that they give you the screen recording functionality is more of a reference or a point of reference if you wanted to look back and recall the meeting or go back through and find a specific point of conversation. It's not specifically for content creation. So those assets, they're not easy to cut up and edit. And if one person's speaking, it might still have someone else on screen until it cuts back across to their stream. So it doesn't enable you to create a really nice piece of content that you can share after the fact. So what we've gone out and built is actually a live recording studio as well, which essentially replicates the comfortability of a meeting that you would typically take part in. But instead, we give you all of the setup and guidance up front. You're able to also opt into the T's and C's and privacy policy, which is a key part of all of the content creation inside Vouch. So whether it's a live recording or if you're getting someone across the business to submit content independently, at any point in time, they have to opt into your company's T's and C's or privacy policy before submitting that content to you. That's a key point so that you do have ownership and the ability to use that content across your specific channels, avoids any headaches afterwards or having to go get disclaimers or content forms signed after the fact. So it's all built into the platform. But if I was to go through here, I would essentially be dropped into a live meeting environment. But instead of us screen recording, we're capturing the input feeds, so video, audio, and then giving you high quality and high resolution assets that you can use afterwards. So the outputs would be also side by side. So you can do podcast style recordings. Maybe it's a hiring manager discussion or an executive thought leadership piece that you wanted to share externally, or it may be a hiring manager brief, or it might be a very sensitive employee story that you wanted to guide them through that recording process live rather than having them record that independently. Gives you a little bit more control over the recording, a little bit more polish in terms of what they're saying, and then you can just actually take each of the individual streams and edit them in the post-production as well. So I could be the host, someone could be the respondent, and I could actually cut out my feed entirely after the fact as the host. So that's one way of capturing content, less scalable, but a lot more control. And then one of the ways that a lot of people will go through and collect their content is through the request flow, which is essentially being able to set up a recording environment that you can then send out to all your employees, to a hiring manager, to individual recruiters, to department leaders, to executives, and they can go through a structured recording environment in their own time to pass content back to you and the team. So if I was to go and set one of them up, we'll do a content demo. That will take me into a new request flow. And at this point, I can now start to set up some of my questions or guidance for that person to actually submit content back to me and make it really structured. I have three options with my questions. I can type a question manually. So if you know exactly what you want to be asking of your audience, you can type that question yourself. We also have a library of template questions across a number of different use cases. that you can start to tap into. Maybe it's a D&I question, maybe it's around an early careers program, and you can use these as your templates and then edit them afterwards. And then we also have AI to be able to generate some questions for you. So this might be, please give me. This might be an early careers focused campaign. That will give me some suggested questions. And then it might be, please refine to ask about mentorship and their career progression. And that will then go and refine those questions for me. And it might be, cool, how has mentorship within Vouch's early careers program influenced your professional growth? That might be my question. I can do one or many questions. It's entirely up to me. We recommend keeping the questions relatively few, so it's not cumbersome for the respondent. And then there's a whole raft of settings that you can customize here to really guide that person through the recording experience. So make some questions optional. You can actually ask people to share their screen as part of the recording. You can also control the orientation during that recording process. So I think a lot of people now are optimizing different content formats as well. So sometimes it's an Instagram reel that they wanted to put out. Maybe it's a square video on LinkedIn. Maybe it's a landscape video that they want to drop into their landing page on their career site. There's different formats that are better for different content types. We are device and browser agnostic, so we capture in whatever the device is capable of doing. If you're on desktop, it's going to be landscape by default. If you're on mobile, it's going to be portrait by default, but you can control that. So if you're doing a social campaign and you want purely portrait video, for example, you can select portrait, and regardless of the device, it will orient someone into that portrait frame and make it really easy to capture that consistent content.
That's really thoughtful, guys. I just want to interrupt there. I just want to say that you've put a huge amount of thought into sort of where the distribution of the content is going to be. And I think that's to your credit. It really is. I mean, just looking at all of this, I think anybody who's an EB person or a talent acquisition person can immediately see, wow, that's going to save me like tons of re-editing or post-production effort. Because when people send video in and you haven't given them, these very easy to select options, you come back with a complete disorganized a set of sort of assets that then need a huge amount of effort in post prod. So yeah, that's really well thought out, guys.
I think as well, like how it ties into recruiter enablement is this is the start of that journey. So you've got to get all these great assets in. And if you start with poor content up front, your recruiters won't even want to use what you've built. So we've kind of got to make it easy for TA teams to create and for recruiters to record very quickly. So it's quite granular what we're going through, but at the same time, it's the top of the funnel of getting content out that's really compelling. So you've got to give it some thought. So, when we go into the recording, you'll see that, but also editing as well.
Yeah. And this stuff, this is less nuanced, but I mean, a bit more nuanced, but less relevant for this conversation. But anything like limiting the duration and just it's all about making it as comfortable as possible for that person to record a high quality asset and have as much guidance as possible. As you said, Hung, like some people are comfortable in front of camera, some people are less comfortable. So if you don't give them guidance, I could be logging in as a hiring manager, getting a question around, why is this role impactful for the business? And I could give a 10-minute diatribe around why it's impactful. That is going to be completely unhelpful for a candidate to view a 10-minute video. And in the same fashion, if I don't give any guidance, someone who's not comfortable in front of camera might expect that you want 5 minutes of video and only be comfortable doing 20 seconds. And that might bump them out from actually doing a video for you in the recruitment team. So it's all about making it as easy as possible for people to fill in and respond to these requests. Pre-filled notes, talking points, on-screen prompting, that's all handled as well. The other thing is just giving upfront context. So I'll drop in an example one here, but you can give, a cover video or a cover message to help guide that recording experience and make it as comfortable or as natural as possible. And then all the other settings are inherited from those account level settings we went into. So I won't dive in too deeply, but you can see here all of the defaults that you land on, essentially recording tips, those content T's and C's and privacy policies, SSO, thank you messages, contact form, languages. These are all done at the account level, and then they're just inherited down and you can adjust them if need be. The next part I'll jump straight into, which is the recording and actually having someone submit content, as I think it's pretty quick and easy. You can send that out via custom links to your employee base or to your hiring managers to get them recording that content for you. You can also generate QR codes. So depending on the work environment you're in, some people are in, more in-person environments. Maybe it's manufacturing, healthcare, different office environments, QSR, where they might want to actually have in-person recording with people scanning QR codes and recording really hard and fast, authentic content on their mobiles, which is a nice way of doing it. Otherwise, there's also the link that you can just send out and anyone can access that on whatever device they're on as well. Once you jump into the actual recording interface, this is going to be fully customized to your brand. So this would have your brand logo, brand colors. Again, it's fully white labeled. People come in and now record.
The best thing,
you can see my intro video and message. I can go in and record my response now as an employee. You can see I've got some talking points here. Once I'm ready, I start recording. This is take one. And I can then preview that. If I want, I can re-record. This is my second take. And I can then preview each of them, say whichever one I'm happiest with. You're going to get a high quality response back. And then I can just opt into the T's and C's, press submit, and that content's going to come straight back in to the platform. It recognizes me as a user, so it's already pre-populated my details. But if it was new for you and you hadn't done it before, it would just give you the ability to fill in the contact form and submit your content back. And that's it. It's like super simple. It's a very scalable way to get content from your business. Teams with Vouch are getting thousands of assets on the upper end a year and are able to then use that to build out a really robust library of content for their recruitment teams. So it's historically what's been very difficult is that recruitment teams or employer brand teams often don't have a ton of support from the production teams internally. They might not have an extensive agency budget that they can tap into. And so they're kind of strapped in terms of how they can build out a robust library of content that recruiters can actually use in their outreach and be enabled with. So that's been a massive blocker. So the big unlock here is that it opens up the capability in the first place to build out that recruiter enablement function where content is no longer a barrier. It's now an enabler, and those teams can build out an infinite amount of content and have it signed off by brand, as I'll show you in a minute. All of that brand and editing can come in very simply, and it doesn't have to be reliant on design resource or internal production resource being dedicated away from corporate brand to work on its employer brand content. You can actually do it yourselves inside your teams as well and have confidence that it's going to be signed off by the brand and marketing team as well.
Yeah, it's really, really impressive. Very, very slick demo. But just in terms of how it flows through, it kind of is just light years ahead of anything I've seen so far. And you can imagine sort of we all know from a candidate perspective that it's kind of employee generated content that's most compelling, isn't it? Like people want to hear. I think is it true they want to hear mostly from the hiring manager, the person they're reporting into is the first persona they care about most, and then very close to that, it's the colleagues, isn't it? The other people who are actually doing the job, and those are the people that they want to hear from. So this seems to kind of unlock that, just make it very easy for those colleagues and stakeholders to record a vid and get it out there. Yeah, very good, guys. Very good indeed.
Yeah, I think the benefit is because you're unlocking the ability to scale that content, you don't actually have to pick and choose what content you do. So you don't have to choose, I've got one video to do this quarter. Do I do a group of hiring managers? Do I do a group of employees? You can actually do both because those videos perform better in different environments. So if you're doing top of funnel brand marketing for applications and conversions, for example, on landing pages, on the career site, on job descriptions, you're going to want to present colleagues in those environments that are from similar roles to what those people are in their own candidate journeys, and that can speak to them. Whereas then maybe when it's recruiter outreach, it might be a hiring manager talking explicitly around the role. It might be an executive in one of those teams talking about the role. There's different ways that you might want to use that content, but being able to have that large library gives you the flexibility where you're not, typically just trying to shell out the same high production recruitment video to every candidate or in every instance, because that's the only asset you have access to. Now you have a large library of different assets that have different purposes, and you can bring that into those channels as well.
Yeah, I've got a ton of questions to ask. I don't know whether I should just try and remember them at the end or just fire them across. But let me fire one across straight away. This may be premature as well, but in terms of pricing, I'm assuming that you're pricing this based on what numbers of videos produced or numbers of people that can produce videos, or what? Because I'm thinking, what if it's price per video and I suddenly get an overwhelming amount of videos back? Is it like Google Ads or something? I lose control of my budget and stuff, and incur thousands. How does the pricing work?
Yeah, no, it's definitely not a per video pricing. I think our philosophy is like a healthy customer is someone that's doing a lot of content and sharing a lot of content and getting a lot of value out of the platform. We don't want to put, I would say, usage barriers in place for that, where they're essentially stung for, using the platform well and scaling their usage and becoming a healthy customer. So it's really around exactly what you mentioned, Hung, in terms of the volume of admins and the number of admins that can actually come in and manage that back end and solicit content from employees. But we do not limit the number of people who can also record content. So it's flexible in terms of the org size that can engage with this platform. Doesn't matter if you're a small organization, doesn't matter if you're a large organization with tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of employees, you're enabled to access the platform and scale that content program across different use cases.
Yeah, fantastic stuff. Content library. I'm going to go with these questions. I'm going to forget about them if I don't ask them now. Potentially, if you've got a really active customer and they're like, regularly producing, exactly. Is like, how do you surface up the search? Because searching rich media is so difficult to do. Let's say I might remember, we had some brilliant videos, 6 months or so ago, but I've got a library now of like thousands of videos. How do I go and search through that? How do you tag the videos in some ways? Is there ways in which you could surface up the relevancy?
Yeah, so there's a number of different ways. You do have a dedicated content library for every customer. So every customer has their own library that they can access. That exists on both the admin side and in the recruiter portal, which I'll show you. They are different. So this is all of the raw content, as well as all the content that you've polished up with brand assets in the recruiter portal. It's just approved content that they can filter through, right? So it's just the content that's intended to share. What you're able to do in here is there's a number of filters you can use. There's content types, as you can have images, links, documents, videos. There's contact names I can filter through by the individual. There's the requests, which are what we were just setting up before, which is essentially those responses. I do also have the ability to do tags. I haven't set that up in this demo space, but I can tag content and set up content tags that I can apply to my videos. Location, role, department, and then also you have free word search. So I can actually type in a keyword or a string of text. And if I was to search up by startup, for example, that will actually go through any of the video assets or assets I have in my library and search through any of the metadata associated with that content and surface it in order of relevance. So that's searching against the questions that were asked, their name, their role, the department, the location, the transcription of the content as well, and finding me the most closely related assets and surfacing me to that, which is really powerful to be able to go through a mass library and be able to find that content really quickly. The other thing which I think is interesting is the ability to, for example, if I had a longer form asset or I had a number of different assets here, I can actually go through an AI flow where here I can do a number of different things off this content, where I can build out written content as well. So I can query against that. As you said, Hung, this is on an individual asset, but this could be on a library level where I could say, I know I have a great quote in there somewhere around career progression or mentorship or, remuneration or internal mobility, but I don't know who said it. I've now got hours of video and it was a 10-second quote. I can't find it. You can imagine how you could use this. It's a highlight feature. And here I'll just say, please find me the best web talking about the benefit of working at a startup. And this is just on one asset, so it's going to be less interesting, but this can be on a library of content, as we mentioned before. And it will actually take that prompt, run it through the transcription or the bank of content that I've selected, and it will surface me the best quote or snippet, but it will also automatically edit it out of that content for me and surface it as a highlight that I can go and take and use myself. There's also another feature, which I'll get into after this is run, which is the blog and social posting content, which I don't know why this isn't run through, to be honest.
Might be because it's one clip.
I know it's good. Yeah, I'm just trying to do it on one clip because it's in the demo environment. Normally, you've got a ton of content. It's a short clip. But let me go through. I'll go in the library and I'll show you this properly. If I was to select, I can select this. I'll select a few different videos here. And I might say, what is the best part? And I can write a blog post, for example. So I can go in here. It will also give me some suggested prompts based on the content I've selected. So we'll take the content. It will actually give me some suggested queries based on the transcriptions that I've selected. So it's just saying, write me a blog about working in early stage startups. That's what it thinks is a sentiment from the clips that I've selected. You'll also have a style guide customized to your brand. So we'll have, a number of existing written assets, whether they're blogs or social posts, and we can build out a style guide for your organization and understand the tone of voice that is normally used. We'll then run that prompt against the transcriptions, find the best quotes and snippets, and then use the style guide to weave them together into a coherent written piece of content that I would never suggest you publish this live, but it's a nice way of going from large volume of content, distilling down, and then using that as an output that you can share externally.
This is really fantastic. This is important for us because these teams are relatively small. TA teams don't have huge content creation budgets, so we're actually supplementing some headcount here of smaller content budgets, whatever it might be, by actually producing this. And then ultimately for recruiters, they just need more assets to share. They need blogs, they need case studies about the company. They need to know they've got hiring managers or executives on camera. The more that we can produce, the better that recruiter enablement experience gets. So that's why we're spending a bit of time here, is just to having an empty recruiter enablement portal, your TA teams will bounce out of it and feel like it's another space that they need to log into that's not useful. And so we're just trying to make it as rich and interesting as possible. And I think as Ben touched on there's also documents, and then there's benefits documents, there's company information. We can store not just video, but we can store links and text and everything in Vouch, and that can all be approved and pushed to your recruiter library as well.
Yeah, I mean, two things, guys. I could do with this myself. I gotta be honest. If you think about how many videos Brainfood is, we're up to 350. That's hundreds of hours of video. I can't search any of that. I can't get any of the clips out of that.
Yeah,
just literally sitting on YouTube right now, and it's not being reused. That's content marketing gold for me. So anybody who's got any sort of existing library, I would imagine this Vouch could really reactivate and re-energize some of that stuff. Sure. And secondly, just again, I'm running ahead of myself here, but I wonder whether at some point companies might be very interested in just exposing their library to candidates. So the candidates might search through, you know what I mean? You don't have to push it as a marketing thing. Just say, all right, we've done tons of this video. We've talked about our business. Here's 1,000 hours. You can actually use Vouch to search through it. And if you want to pick anything out from there, go ahead and do it. And I think loads of candidates be totally well into this. I mean, Audra, she's an expert in CX. You let me know what you think in the comments here. Do you not think that's going to just massively increase trust when job candidates can actually search through, what is basically internal dialogue between employees talking about what it is to work in the company? That's brilliant. All right, I'm doing a lot of talking. Yeah, go on.
I was going to say, we do surface it through a kind of a public link that you can send to a candidate with all of the videos. And then we also integrate it really neatly into careers site. So a lot of our customers will put tons and tons of video content on the homepage of the careers site. And it's kind of like an entry point for that candidate to experience the company before they get into the detail of the specific role. So there's options for sure. And I think just the more you surface it, the better. It's particularly large organizations that don't have, a big sexy brand behind them. They've got to kind of work a bit harder to do that. So.
Yeah, I think let's touch. I'll just go through the editing quickly. So I know, Hung, that was a point of interest early in terms of how you can make these assets branded at the top before they are passed through to recruiters to be able to use and ensure that brand consistency is adhered to. So this is on an individual video. You can bring in multiple videos and stitch them together very quickly. This is Vouch's internal editor. This is just an example template. So these can be built for your brand with intro slides, outro slides, animated lower thirds, captions, logo placements, anything you need with custom fonts as well. But you can see here, all I do is I click the template and it jams that intro video on there. It then populates the person's name and their job title automatically from the video as its associated data. And then it plays that video.
The best thing about working at it.
And then it would have an outro video as well. So it very quickly brands that up for me. If I wanted to change it, I might not have video editing experience, but if I wanted to put it in portrait, it's very quick and easy to do that as well. And I can adjust that instantly for this video. If I wanted to revert it, again, it's very simple. There's also the ability to push this into Canva, Adobe Express. We have native integrations into those platforms. If people have preferences to work in those workflows, we can do that as well. And then there's also the ability to go beyond what you see here and then do a lot more formatted editing as well. So if I was to essentially publish this into our advanced editing, you can see here I've got a number of different availabilities here. I can bring in overlay videos, multi-layer, multi-track editing. I can bring in overlay images, overlay text, backing audio. I can add animated captions instantly for these videos, and they can be in brand fonts.
Everything is human scale.
And there's different types of captions that you can do here. So I can do different formats. I can do different styles of captions, change colors, speed, all that kind of stuff is all available to you in here. And then you can push that content externally. So this is that branding element to ensure that as an administrator of the platform, you're comfortable before it goes out the door, that it's adhering to the brand that you need to have it consistent with. And then that's when you're able to share that content. So you're able to push it externally via a link and give that to your recruiters, which I'll show you in a moment. You can publish to LinkedIn or socials as a post. We also have an employee advocacy platform as well, which they use either with their broader employee base or directly with their recruiting channels, where integrated with Slack and Teams, you can actually push content into Slack or Teams as an approved social post, and they can publish that directly to their LinkedIn channel. Massive benefit there in terms of using your recruiters as talent magnets. A lot of teams, if you just scroll through LinkedIn now, you'll see a lot of teams are trying to do that just with like a text block and then a link to like a job posting that's published on LinkedIn. It's not overly engaging though. There isn't video content. It's not, there's much employer brand focus around those posts. It's really just like hey, here's a post, apply. So being able to layer in more advocacy style content alongside those postings is really interesting. We have a portal for advocacy, but I think that workflow of publishing to Slack and Teams is super interesting because it puts it and delivers it inside someone's workflow. And advocacy is not natural for a lot of people. They're not logging in every day thinking, how can I find time out of my day to go and post something about my company? Whereas if you deliver it to them in their workflow and it's really genuinely one click for them to post, there's a lot higher likelihood that they're going to partake in that advocacy program and get a lot of high participation rate.
Yeah, and this is that boosting things like referral schemes and stuff like that. I mean, that's obvious. It's one of the biggest blocks. Like if you're going to ask people to log to another system or whatever, and you don't know the login, they forgot the password, haven't logged in for ages, it's like, they're going to bounce straight away. So yeah, keeping this in workflow is spot on.
Yeah, and you get all the analytics on the back end of it in terms of who posted what was the organic reach you got on the back of that, the reactions. There's also, Audra mentioned, there's a few options here where you can obviously export that content, so you own all the content. Email embeds is a really popular feature, but I'll show you that in the recruiter portal in terms of sharing. But just know, it's very flexible and easy to go from a raw asset to a very published asset that's on brand and then push that out through a number of different channels. But Gary, I don't know if there's anything you wanted to add. I'll jump into the recruiter portal. You can see kind of then, the go-to-market in terms of how those recruiters can then actually access that themselves in a portal and go and use that to actually post externally or engage with candidates.
No, this is great. The only thing I would add is that not everyone has a dedicated EB team. And a lot of the time, this responsibility to do this is falling on a marketing team or even just a talent acquisition team or a leader. So this is, we work with lots of EB teams, but we also work with lots of, internal comms teams and TA folks that are trying to do this themselves. And so I feel like it's just a worthy reminder that you don't have to have a dedicated EB team to start doing this today, relatively simply and quickly. So I think it's worth looking at Recruiter now. Just for context, we're going to switch out of our kind of content workspace into what a recruiter would see. So everything that Ben will go through here has basically been approved at a brand level for the TA team to go and use. So there's no doubt for a recruiter coming in whether they can use anything, it's good to go and they can create within one workspace, which is cool.
Yeah, and there is a setup component with that. So you have the control over what that recruiter portal actually looks and presents like for your recruiters. So maybe you're the head of talent managing it, maybe it's the employer brand team managing it, maybe it's an individual talent leader managing it, or even marketing. You have the ability to essentially structure that recruiter portal for your recruiters, and that there's a number of layers of granularity that comes into that. There's things that we call personas, which is essentially the ability to set up personas around the organization. They can be as granular or as high level as you like, depending on how much structure you want to put into the interface. Some teams do them on role specific. So if they're doing a lot of hiring around specific roles, they might do high volume hiring for casual workers or across a number of different roles that they want to structure out separately. They might do it by team. So maybe it's sales, marketing, operations, and those are the personas they orient around. You can essentially build descriptions for these personas, role or position requirements. You can then start to associate some of those published assets with that persona. So I can say for my sales development representative persona, Here are some videos from the sales leaders in the business. Here's a CEO video. Here's some testimonials from some of our existing SDRs. Here's some job position requirements. Here's actually job description copy. Here's some of our policies. Here's quota attainment data, like whatever you wanted to bring in here in terms of enablement material to associate with a persona, you can bring that all into here. And then it goes a step further with being able to actually build out outreach templates and copy that then your recruiters can then use when they're tracking and going through profiles on LinkedIn, on Indeed, or even just responding back to candidates in real life communication. They can then use these templates as messaging to then go out and better communicate with candidates without having to think too much and personalize also off their profiles as well. So this is all in the setup. And then if I was to jump in as a recruiter, you can then see what that platform looks like on the recruiter side in terms of how they're going to actually inherit that content and be able to use it. So if I come in as a recruiter, you can obviously see here, it's a little bit different. I don't have any of that setup capability. It's more now I'm viewing this as essentially a structured knowledge base that I can now access as a recruiter. There's two interfaces for the recruiter. There's this admin view, or this is more of like the portal, which is in the browser. And then they also have a browser extension. As a lot of recruiters, same as salespeople, they don't want to come into another platform and disrupt flow of work. So we also are able to surface all of the content and the interface in a browser extension as well, which I'll show you what that looks like after this. If they wanted to come through, there's a number of different sections here. They can come through the personas, which is, again, you can see those personas that we set up in the admin. They're now presented here in this dashboard for the recruiters. If I was to click into one, I get all of that information that was set up for me in the admin. So I can see a description, I can see requirements, I can see some of the assets that have been associated and the templates, but I can also go through a number of different flows here. I can use our AI, which is similar to what before, but you can start to query questions around that persona. It's also great for recruiter onboarding. So if you have new recruiters, they can come in and ask questions around different personas. They can learn around some of the content that's been associated here. What are requirements? What are some of the best things that teams love about working in the sales team at Vouch as opposed to somewhere else? So it's things that they can use as a learning base. Those assets are really easy to then start to distribute. So I could find a video that I like, and I can instantly go and share that video. So I have a number of different sharing methods that I can use. This is a nice one, which is essentially just a hosted landing page that would be fully branded for your organization. A lot of teams traditionally, they might be sharing links to videos that are a Vimeo link or a YouTube link if they're trying to share a video that's hosted. It doesn't have any brand alliance, so it's not branded when you're sharing with a candidate. It's also not dedicated. So they're landing on a general YouTube page. They'll then click on videos on the side. Like, they're not going through a structured flow in terms of conversion. Whereas with this, you're able to send them a video, and you can actually have things like custom CTAs on this landing page, where if they like the video, they can click through the job application, or they can click back into your career site. So it's a nice way to go from like a LinkedIn DM where you send them a structured viewing environment that then's got a nice CTA. You can see here, hi there, easy to play that video back and use that. If you wanted to use different sharing, you can publish directly to LinkedIn or to social as it is approved asset from the team. You can download that video, and then this is where it becomes interesting, where you can copy actually a GIF or a GIF and alt text to drop into an email builder as well, which is what Audra mentioned she's doing with her recruitment, quite broadly at Foundation Medicine as well. I think you were. I was peeking back into the session. It looked like you were going to ask a question, but held back.
No, I'm all right, mate. I'm deep in thought.
Deep in thought.
Yeah, I am deep in thought. It's like it's very easy to imagine how this would just very, very, it would accelerate a recruiter's sort of time to action, I think is the word I'm looking for. Maybe it's a bit of a clumsy term, but essentially, you do have to do more when you're engaging candidates, whether it's like keeping people sort of, whether you're re-engaging candidates, keeping them warm during the process, outreaching, breaking through. It's like, how many times are people bouncing off sort of just a text-based message? You got to try and do different things. A question I was going to ask, actually, right now, the asset is generally going to be posted on a social platform or inserted in email. Are you sort of at the point where you can stick stuff into WhatsApp or whatever? Or is that where you want to go, or is that too intrusive? Like, where are you guys thinking about the channel of delivery with some of these assets that have been produced?
Definitely not intrusive. I think we have to stay relevant with the channels that teams are using for communication with candidates, and increasingly, like text communication and WhatsApp communication is being used across a number of different markets and environments. There's some ways that you can do it already, where you can download that asset and publish it into a WhatsApp chat. Obviously, some teams have a little bit of concern with the WhatsApp when it's then maybe going onto a different device and then going into kind of an ether in terms of WhatsApp or text, but it's definitely, they have ownership of the asset, right? So they can download that and publish it in, if that's an option that the business wants to expose to the recruiters. We don't at the moment have a native publishing flow, I guess, to WhatsApp, but that's something that we might explore down the line as we get more requests on that front. But definitely the distribution is the key thing, and I think, I mean, you might call it clumsy, but I think it's a good description in terms of a lot of the key selling point is it's an efficiency tool. It's how can I deliver efficiencies to recruiters that historically has it been a barrier, where it's not actually, it's delivering efficiency, but it's not in turn saving them time. It's actually opening up additional capability, because previously, because it was so inefficient, they wouldn't do it. So because it's now more efficient, they're now doing it. So some people sell it as a time save, but it's actually not a time save. It's just actually adding capability, because now it is efficient enough to actually go out and do it.
And I know you guys are selling initially into corporate, but this is obviously going to be great for BD as well. So I can imagine a lot of, we're talking about recruitment, a lot of agency recruiters, I think, could be very interested in using something like this to try and break in and build, continue to keep their client and customer base sort of engaged, and then breaking out beyond recruitment. There's no reason why it stays there, right? I mean, it could be any kind of a business development, customer development type of tool. So yeah, any thoughts on that track? Have you thought about that at all, or have you had any kind of, is it kind of like we're getting to the point where we're diversifying too much into different spaces and whatever?
No, I'm sure Gary, I can see a natural extension into another thinking track. So I'll let Gary take it, because I know he's probably going to want to dive into.
Conscious of everyone's time as well. I think so in terms of outside of TA and comms and talent, I think like we like being focused in this area from a product development perspective. There's so much nuance that you can build into the platform that is targeted at those teams. But you're right, Hung, we do have organizations coming in and using us for other means, so customer marketing or different bits and pieces. But I love the focus of product with one persona and like really focused on TA. So that's probably where we'll stay. In terms of what's coming next as well, this is obviously sold into the enterprise, but we are like very imminently releasing a really cool, modern, fast, fresh kind of AI product for recruiters individually. So it'll be fully free. You can log in and try it, hopefully, within the next 2 to 4 weeks, depending on development timelines. It'll be, a lot of people have used Loom. So there's a recording component to what we're building. So recruiters will be able to record their own videos and candidate outreach. But we've also built this concept of what we're calling like a pitch page. So a lot of the feedback we got from individual TA folks was, I just need to be able to customize the initial outreach to cut through the noise. And so they want to add a video of themselves, maybe something personalized about the potential candidate they're reaching out to. They want to put a booking link. They want to put a job description. They want to put team content. They want to bundle something that is really compelling to a candidate in outreach in LinkedIn or wherever they are. So that's the concept that's launching in a couple of weeks, which is, it's kind of spin off of this, but will be fully free for recruiters to try out, and hopefully, a little less robust than kind of having to roll it out across the enterprise.
Yeah, I feel a competition coming on, guys. I feel a video off competition coming on. We should do.
Yeah.
I'd love to see more recruiters give this a shot, because I know how hard it is. I mean, it could be, you can use this in any kind of sort of context, even if you're doing job search, for instance, or whatever it is. Like if you wanted to reach somebody, the tooling of this type is going to help you do it. But yeah, I'm also conscious of time. I can keep going with you guys for a long time, but let's crack through in terms of the demo. Anything else that we need to see that we haven't seen, Ben?
Yeah, I think like the main thing is like the ability to have those templates then inherited for outreach, being able to have those dynamic outreach emails or outreach copy for in-mails. Again, that library is then surfaced for those recruiters. I think this is one of the last couple of things I'll show, which again, they have then the searchability as well to fish through that library and find the content that they need very quickly in a really sorted fashion. And then the last thing is just showing that it does have that browser extension. So they can you see the browser extension on my screen here?
No, I think you have to do the full share screen, but it might be tricky.
We'll risk it. Let me try.
I think the browser extension would be very, very interesting. As you say, recruiters hate to just log into another dashboard. So if there's a way in which they could,
you can see here.
Icon.
Can you see that there?
Yep.
Yeah, so that comes in as your browser extension, and they can see everything that they need to there. So they can jump through the exact same interface right in their browser and access the same filtering and all the same functionality as well directly in their browser.
If you're on LinkedIn, that's where it's most helpful because you can just drag assets into your DMs from the browser extension or an ATS.
Yeah.
And the product that we're launching in a couple of weeks will also be very browser extension heavy. So I think we found that, especially TA folks don't need another thing to log into. We need to make it accessible to where they are today. So that's the focus with the browser extensions.
Yeah, fantastic stuff. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you, Ben, for doing a great demo, by the way. Brilliant job going through that. How many times have you demoed, by the way, that particular flow?
3 or 4. 3 or 4.
Dude,
probably.
pro level, mate. Pro level. But yeah, really, really good. Very exciting. I kind of feel motivated to use it myself. I'm like trying to imagine scenarios in which I could find this useful. But already there's 2 or 3 immediately, which I'm not even doing recruitment right now. So yeah, this is great. Okay, what do customers need to know about this recruitment enablement feature? They can demo it straight away. Can they play around with it, or is it a case they gotta speak to Ben first? Is he the big gatekeeper before anything happens?
I don't know. If you go to the website on the homepage, there's a fully interactive demo you can take yourself through. So you can go through that flow yourself that we just went through. It's very visual. That's probably a good place to start. Obviously, anyone watching or listening today, reach out to Hung or us directly, and we can set up something custom. But yes, as Andrew mentioned, Ben's a wonderful person to demo with. He's very knowledgeable in the space, and ultimately, we would want you to chat with Ben and figure out the right solution for the company on the product we went today. So there's a guided product tour in the chat. On the new product we're launching in a couple of weeks, that'll be fully self-serve. So you'll be able to sign in yourself, play around, download straight away. No demos needed. So that'll be launching, sometime in November. But on this product, head to the website and sort of go through it yourself, and then reach out if it's interesting.
Exciting stuff, guys. I love the fact the product iteration is so fast. I look forward to seeing what the self-serve product is as well. That sounds like a very, very good way to distribute to a very wide audience without having to go through that many hoops. There's a lot of people out there that I think love to experiment and then bring things back to home base. Okay, I think that's about it, guys. Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. Great to have you both on screen. Love to do the demo. I think we've all found it very, very interesting. I'm going to send, obviously, a recording of this entire sort of episode to everyone who's registered to the show. And anybody's interested in speaking to Ben or Gary, get in touch with them directly. I'll also share their contact details with you as we go through. So thank you very much, guys. Appreciate the time of day as well. So thanks for getting up and showing us your wonderful product, guys.
Thanks for setting it up, Hung. Well done, Ben. Thanks, everyone.
Cheers.
Wasn't that great, everyone? Very exciting stuff. You know what? Again, it's one of these sort of products that makes me feel like motivated to actually do the job of recruiting. As a matter of fact, I'm doing some recruitment as we go as another experiment. I wonder if I can get a cheeky go on Vouch whilst I do it, because I think having the ability to very quickly access that on-brand content, I think, is so powerful for those frontline recruiters. Very, very exciting indeed. All right, folks, listen, that's it. And thanks for joining Brainfood Live on Air live demo. We're going to keep doing this. Loads of companies very interested in showing what they've got. I think it's a really interesting time for recruiters. We've never had as many excellent tools that have given us this capability. But okay, that's it. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll be back as soon as we can, and as soon as we've got another product to show you. Thanks for watching.